Hey everyone, welcome to Prepare to Go There. My name is Peter Birchfield. I'm the host of this self-leadership podcast and the creator of the Pioneer the Year course. We're going to have an awesome time together, and I got a question for you. It's pretty important. Do you know if you're doomed to repeat 2021? It's a bit discouraging to think about, but I would rather face the music and figure out how to do something about it than get to 2023, 2030, 20 whatever, and look back and say, oh no, I had no idea I was in a repeat year cycle. But before we dive into that conversation, I would love for you to say, hey, let me know where you're watching from. This is a self-leadership podcast helping you become a pioneering leader. And we're going to really take a self-assessment, so you can know at a dialed-in level whether you are prone to be stuck or if you are putting in the work that's going to turn a repeat year into a new frontier. You know, we hear all the time, if you're going to go the distance, make a difference, you need habits. You need routines. You need to do the fundamentals again and again and again. But like the adage goes, it's not practice that makes perfect. Practice makes permanent. So you may be having some bad form in your day-to-day life, in your communication, your team leadership, your thought process about the future, your best practices that create innovation and acceleration. If we're not careful, we'll be reinforcing bad habits and we will be stuck in a repeat year cycle. And so that's why we have to learn how to lead ourselves and stay focused on the future. Both are very difficult, right? Leading yourself, self-leadership, I say it a lot, but it's easier said than done. It's probably why more is being said than done. And so we have to examine ourselves, be honest, and really ask ourselves, are we leading with intentionality and integrity? It was so cool. Even today, as I was doing my morning time, I was reading some verses in Proverbs 6, and this is one of the, the original inspirations for my own self-leadership. It says, take a lesson from the ants, you lazy bones. Learn from their ways and become wise. Though they have no prince or governor or ruler to make them work, they labor hard all summer, gathering food for the winter. But you, lazy bones, how long will you sleep? When will you wake up? A little extra sleep, a little more slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest. Then poverty will pounce on you like a bandit. Scarcity will attack you like an armed robber. Man, this gets my attention every time. Every time I try to think about how things are going, how I'm doing, this is a healthy dose of reality to keep me focused on leading myself and facing the future. And just a few takeaways before we get into this self-assessment. The first thing I noticed is take a lesson from the ants. You know, ants are super small. And many times we overlook the small things in our life that can actually help us get out of the ruts, get out of repeat years, and go for new frontiers. We talk about being stuck in a repeat year cycle. That's when you're journaling the same frustrations year after year. You're complaining about the same people year after year. You're making the same excuses about the poor habits and the poor choices you've been making. You have do-over goals. Maybe you dress them up a little differently. You add a little, new language to it, but really you're just having a do-over year. And we think that a repeat year, which is kind of big in scale, happens with big moments and big choices. And that definitely is factored into it. But really, it's like the ants. It's the little things in our life. It's the little choices and the little decisions and the little actions we take at scale that become the difference between a repeat year and a new frontier. So we have to slow down. We have to be honest. And we have to say, am I leading myself? Like right now, today, how am I doing with my self-leadership? And then it goes on, it says, you lazy bones. The easiest way to relive 2021 is to just be lazy about 2022. Laziness will kill your passion and your work, your relationships, because you're not willing to put in the work. Man, if there's anything on the internet that's trying to convince you that things are just going to happen effortlessly, I would caution you about that. Now, I do think, as you would agree, when you're doing the right things, it doesn't feel draining, right? There is a point where you get in a groove. You're doing things that are life-giving, that are future-focused, that are others-oriented. Man, you're in a healthy place. And it doesn't, you get tired, but you really don't get burned out because you're staying fired up with a renewable source, a renewable motivation. And then it goes on and it says, learn from their ways and become wise. Man, if we're going to prevent 2021 getting dragged out into 2022, 23, 24, 25, the difference is not going to be automations. The difference is not just going to be technology. The difference is not just going to be our trends and our tactics. The difference is going to be wisdom. Wisdom is the difference between fool's gold and the real thing. We need to get wisdom. And then it goes on and it basically gives a one-sentence summary of self-leadership. When you look at the ants, here's what you're going to notice. From the outside, it looks like they're just kind of scurrying around, right? That they're just kind of going here, there, and everywhere. You don't really know the method behind their madness, so you don't think much of it, right? You might want to try to stomp on them. You might try to step over them. But they actually have some wisdom going on. And if you are zooming in and you begin to better understand what's happening, you're going to pick up on a powerful principle for your life. And here it is. They have no governor, ruler, prince to make them work. They are internally motivated. There's something innate, there's something intrinsic going on in that ant. You know, in Texas, we have fire ants. And I have had my fair share of run-ins with Texas fire ants. Dang, they hurt. Particularly if a lot of these fire ants gang up on you. Man, you think that they're just small and tiny, but they pack some dynamite. And I kind of use that as a metaphor to kind of make a joke, make a point, and say, we need to be fired up about our future. We need to be fired up about the things we're working on and working towards. And like those Texas fire ants, we need to be fired up about our self-leadership. And they don't have anybody making them do that work. From the outside, it looks like they're just going here, there, everywhere. It looks like they're just having a random day. But the reality is they are putting in the work. No one's forcing them to do that. And it can be very tough to develop internal motivation. You know, self-leadership, leading yourself, educating yourself, disciplining yourself. You know, this phrase, self-made. I don't really know where I land on that because I just think we're relational people. But I can say, without self-leadership at work, you're just going to have more and more random days, and you're not going to take action unless you are getting that external motivation from somewhere else, either in the form of the carrot or the stick, either in the form of someone nagging on you or bragging on you. You're not going to move unless you're moved upon, and that is dangerous in context of your future. Because what if nobody comes along? What if nobody says attaboy or great going or hey, have you thought about this? Do you have the resources, the mindsets, the skill sets to keep yourself going, keep yourself growing, even when you feel like you're the only one putting in the work, even when you feel like the work you're putting in isn't working out? That is one of the signature strengths that we're picking up on here with self-leadership. Self-leadership says, I don't need somebody to tell me what to do every other day. I don't need someone looking over my shoulder. I definitely don't need to be micromanaged. I'm going to figure out. It's not just about pushing off healthy, helpful, relationships, empowering forms of authority, not overpowering, but empowering, protecting authority. But it's about developing the mechanisms that are going to lead yourself through obscurity, through adversity, through insecurity. So that way you actually show up ready. You haven't squandered that time that was unsupervised or unnoticed. You haven't wasted that preparation season. You didn't just think, oh, I can get away with anything. You said, no, this is valuable time for me. No one's telling me to do this stuff. I mean, at the end of the day, there is a line that you cross, an invisible line where, parents will only take you so far. Leaders will only take you so far. And we have a lot of people that have titles, but they didn't make that internal decision. I know what leadership looks like because I practice leadership on myself. I am a good leader because I've learned how to be a good follower. And now I can practice the skill sets that are making a difference in my life, and I can see them ripple out relationally to the people on my team and the people in my circle of influence. And so this is inspiring to me. Even though it looks kind of random to the bystander, on the inside of that little fired up fire ant, there's a mission. They labor hard all summer. Now, individually, those words, they're cool as it is. But man, when you pack them together in that sequence, there's like a huge sucker punch that comes to my gut every time. Talk about expectation. They labor hard all summer. Man, I can put in, some good work in sessions, in bursts, but what about a lifestyle of perseverance? What about grit? What about the stick with it mentality? An enduring and even durable sense in your perspective. They labor hard all summer. You might be going through a hard season right now, but you have to work harder than the season you're in. I know your environment might be hostile to your passion or even your purpose, but you have to work harder than the environment around you. And then it says all summer. Man, summer is particularly other than winter. Winter has its own conditions. I would much rather go through summer than winter. I get cold very easily. But summer just implies something that you're enduring. If you're working through those conditions, man, it's difficult. And can you imagine having the self-leadership when you could easily kick back, you could easily skip, you could easily make excuses and not do that work, or to say, I did bare minimum, so now I can go hang out by the pool. But what would it look like? And I'm not preaching hustle culture here, but I am saying, because I believe in rest and taking time to rest. I believe in being intentional with the long game focus. But self-leadership produces the kind of people that can align their actions with this kind of description. They're able to labor hard all summer. And it's not just, working for the sake of work. It's not just kind of scraping by. It's not just survival mentality, although there's an implication, that winter is coming, to use that phrase. But they're gathering food for the winter. They're thinking about the next phase now. They're doing the future work now. Man, these pioneering leaders, they are exploring the unknown so that way they can be reliable guides when everyone else gets there. They are navigating complexity so that way they can offer simplicity and safe passage and reassurance that, hey, we can get through this because actually I've already gone through this, and I can come back and tell the story that gives you hope and offers help. That's the kind of leader that we want to be associated with. Those are the kind of leaders we want on the team. Reliable guides, not just impressive gurus, but people who have actually gone through the tough stuff and they've come back with their joy. They've come back with results. They've come back without having so many burned bridges that they can actually carry people into a better future because they realize, even though it was really, really painful for them, it can turn around for good in the big picture. And then here we see, how long will you sleep? And, that might really imply that it's a literal sleep. You're just kind of sleeping through life. And I know that most people really struggle with fatigue, decision fatigue, burnout, exhaustion. Man, it is so real and it's so painful, and it's happening more than ever. And what it does is it really stunts your effectiveness. It stunts your growth. It's kind of like trying to hack at a tree with a dull axe, and you're just whacking and hacking, and you're trying your best. You keep doing everything you know to do, but you haven't, to use the phrase that Dr. Stephen Covey would use, you haven't been sharpening the saw. You haven't been staying sharp, mentally sharp, emotionally, spiritually, physically, etc. sharp, and you get dulled. And it's just the wear and tear of life, and you get discouraged, and it's easy to get distracted. And what happens is you just kind of slump into this malaise. You get in this malaise of life, this kind of laziness in your thinking, and it's just kind of like a numbing effect and a desensitizing, and you lose your sense of urgency, and you lose your sense of expectancy. And then you have these kind of like wake-up calls, these wake-up moments where you're like, whoa, what have I been doing? Where'd all this time go? What's going on? And all of that panic and all of that fear that floods in on you, it wasn't overnight. It wasn't just like it came unexpectedly or out of nowhere. Actually, threats have been mounting for quite a while. Challenges, is mounting. Time is compounding, and your prudence and your vigilance and your ability to actually see what's important and to see what's possible about the future is what's going to keep you going, keep you growing. And I would just, appeal to you. Maybe you're a developing leader. Maybe you're just getting started, or maybe you've had a very successful run and you're just kind of wondering what's next. I would say, please wake up sooner than later. And poverty, crashes in on you. Scarcity happens. And you really do run out of time. You really do run out of options. You have a poverty approach, and scarcity is all that's left, because you didn't steward the moment you were in. And it's so crazy. The things that make the biggest difference seem like the most insignificant investment. Things that make the biggest difference can, in the moment, feel like an insignificant investment. But it is the little things that add up over time. And we've got this kind of this water filter thing, and you put water in and it kind of drains down, and it makes it even better for drinking. And it takes time to filter through. And so I actually have to think about putting the water in the filter before I want to drink the water, because I realize there's going to be time. But if I just wake up in the beginning of the day and I just kind of put it proactively in the filter, it's working for me. That filter, time is now my ally. Time is now being leveraged for me, and it's not working against me. And a lot of times we're not having intentional conversations. We're not being proactive about our preparation, and we're not letting time work for us. So self-leadership is still front burner. We're in episode 115. So think about it. This has been over 114 hours of recorded time, actually on-air time, talking about self-leadership. And I'm telling you, I'm just getting started. Because some of you are just now hearing about this, and some of you are just now realizing that this is a big deal. The way you lead yourself is a big deal. It doesn't matter whether you have notoriety, popularity, if you have connections, if you have success. All of that can go up in a flame if you do not know how to steward your reputation and to serve others with it. And that might be your family. It might be your team. It might be the people you care about, the people you're trying to help and serve. But if you're leading yourself every day with intentionality and integrity, you're gonna be on a good path. And it may take some time, but it's gonna be working out for your good. Even if there's parts of life that are really sad and stuff that we don't know how to process, preparation is an imperative that leaders have to go through. And you're really not going to know how to lead others until you've gone through the workshop of leading yourself there first. So we're going to dive into two different things. One is I want to give you a call to action, and we're going to talk about a quiz that you can take to figure out how do you actually lead yourself and become a pioneering leader. You know, the big challenge that we all face is that we're risking with that mindset of laziness and procrastination. And it's so good, man. It's sweet at first. It's so easy. But isn't it interesting? The things that are easy up front become very, very difficult afterwards. And then conversely, the things that are difficult at first actually make your life sweeter and better. So I want to help you turn repeat years into new frontiers. And as you're thinking through this self-assessment, we're going through these 4 categories to prove that maybe you're actually repeating the failures of 2021. Maybe you're just kind of going through a repeat year cycle. Maybe you've been in a repeat year cycle and you haven't just been going 2 or 3 years, but you've been living the same year 2, 3, 4 times. And I want to help you get out of that rut, get out of that repeat year cycle, and really think like a pioneer. Turn repeat years into new frontiers. You got to figure out what kind of pioneering leader you are. That's why I want you to take the quiz. Find out what your pioneering archetype is. Are you an explorer or a pathfinder or a homesteader or a trailblazer? And you'll get personalized coaching to help you get started and level up. So let's take this self-assessment because we want to learn pioneering leadership. And pioneering leadership is what's going to help you turn those repeat years into new frontiers. And so we're going to just kind of go through this role play one by one. Are you doomed to repeat 2021? Tough question, but I'd rather ask it sooner than later. I'd rather figure it out and have enough time to do something about it than pretend that everything was gravy, that everything was cool, that everything was all right. Man, quit pretending and keep preparing. So what are these? We don't want to be doomed to repeat last year again and again. The first way you know that you're in a repeat year cycle is that you are cluttered. You're too cluttered. You're internally cluttered. Your life is just totally out of control. You've lost any sense of ownership and organization about your time, your money, your conversations, your projects, just your material goods, the things that you use in your house or you use at the workplace. And I get that there's definitely a place where people, they know where everything is. They know how things operate. They have a little bit of, stacks here and there. But I'm talking about clutter where you cannot keep track. You are always forgetting stuff. You're always behind. And specifically, this clutter starts creeping in and attacking your progress on multiple fronts of life. This is where we feel the epidemic of work-life balance. People, man, they're really trying to figure out work-life balance. And you know what? That's still only two sides of this equation, of this situation. That's still only two fronts in your life. And you have way more than just the stereotypical work and life. Man, you've got your personal, your relational, your financial, on and on, all the way down to the interior part of you, who you really are. And it can be tough to keep track of what's happening on these multiple fronts of your life. So for example, if you're committing and overcommitting to things on your calendar, you've booked and double and triple booked to things, and you are constantly shifting appointments around, shifting phone conversations around, shifting responsibilities around because you're just trying to make it all work, and it's a very skilled dance. Man, you make this thing look like choreography because you are moving around all the time trying to just keep up with the activity of all these different fronts in your life. And it kind of feels like you're just getting dragged through the day. You're getting worn thin. And you do get around to do it. It just might take you 3 or 4 or 14 tries before you actually accomplish something and you get something done, because your MO is, just hang on and survive the day. It's too cluttered. And I love, there's a quote, and pardon me, just look it up online to find the source, but it says, a cluttered mind lives in a cluttered world. So man, if there's a lot of clutter and craziness and chaos, if you're a crazy maker on your team, it's probably because there's a lot of internal turbulence. There's a lot of turmoil, a lot of frustration, a lot of pent up issues, and you've got to work through that. You've got to clear the clutter. And when you are in a repeat year cycle, you don't realize it at first because it's camouflaged behind and around all that clutter. You can't pick up on patterns. You can't find trends and take initiative on opportunities. You can't, resolve issues that start festering early. And clutter will camouflage the challenges and the choices that need your attention. You might be in a repeat year cycle if you feel really cluttered. The second thing is indecision. This is, really, really close to home for many of us, because this is where we have good intentions. And I'm all about being intentional. I think being intentional is a great starting point, but intentions, and those are still dime a dozen. That's still like having good ideas. I mean, intentions just means that you have thought about something enough to kind of know where you would land on it, what your preference is or what your process is, but you still haven't started anything. You might be at risk of a repeat year cycle if you are prone to indecision. If you're the person who hits the snooze button every morning, if you're the person who is stalling on emails, meetings, conversations, if you're the person who is kicking the can down the road, or if you're the person who's just talking big but not matching it with big action steps, if you're saying, yeah, I know what I want, but have you started? If you're in that neighborhood, if you're out there in that part of the future frontier, kind of getting lost in all of these ideas, you're still thinking very aspirational, but it's not actionable yet, then you might be in a repeat year cycle. I'm not trying to like start some, some sort of Foxworthy jingle here. You might be, but I'm sincere. I want you to think about this. I want you to face this. I don't want you to be doomed to a repeat year cycle. I don't want you to show up to family reunions and team times and conferences and networking opportunities, and they say, hey, what's new with you? And you say, same good stuff. Or you always have a new idea. You always have a new project. You always have something you're super excited about, something you're convinced is going to change the world, and it doesn't pan out. It doesn't actually stick. It doesn't make sense. It's not real. I'm all for having the ideal day and, working on ideal plans, but really, ideal is the starting point, not the finish line. It helps you kind of make sense of where you could start, and then you go to work. And I'm concerned that a lot of people are just escaping to their fantasy land, and they're not going to work on their real future day by day. Indecision is dangerous. Indecision can become toxic. Indecision refuses to admit that ideas expire, that there is a window of opportunity. It will open, it will close. And if you know about something now, there's absolutely something you can and should be doing about it now. But if you say, well, I'm just going to research that some more and research that some more and research that some more, you're lost. You're lost. You're not researching out there, on the fringe in the future frontier. Friend, I got to tell you, you're lost in the woods. You've got to take action. You have to make a decision. You have to commit. You can't just be skirting through these issues, through these ideas. You can't just be going around in circles around your health. You can't just be kind of meandering around your money. You can't just be talking big and getting a lot of quotable things from the internet. You have to apply and implement. You have to learn and even fail. You have to, dare say, struggle through until you find a strategy that is helping you break through the gravity of a repeat year cycle and actually turn a repeat year into a new frontier. Don't settle. Don't plateau, and don't decline with indecision. Learn how to make good choices. Learn how to make decisions worth repeating. Learn how to grow in wisdom. Learn how to get sharper and sharper and sharper, so that way the decisions that took you 5 days to figure out last year can take you 5 minutes to go through this year. So that way the challenges that took you 5 months to work through and wrestle through and get, help on, now you get to help other people through them in 2, 3, 4 years running. Indecision. Man, if you're picking up, if you're noticing signs of indecision, you really need to wake up. Are we doomed to a repeat year cycle? If there's sabotage, you need to pay attention to it. The third way that we can be doomed to repeat 2021 is we just get in our own way again. Man, have you ever gotten in your own way? Man, it's like everything was so clear. Everything was so organized. Everything was poised to just do good and blow up and grow and be fine. And then somehow we got in our own way. It was a human error. The code was right. I'm using a metaphor here. Maybe you're in software. I don't know. The code was right, but there was a human error. Man, we can self-sabotage, can't we? And if you're getting in your own way again and again, you say, well, what does that look like, Peter? Well, there's two ditches that we fall into. If we're not paying attention, we'll fall into these two ditches often. One, we're overthinking it. We're always overthinking stuff, and then we just sabotage the opportunity. We sabotage the moment. On the other extreme, we're overworking, and we're actually doing too much. We're doing too many jobs. We're wearing too many hats, and I don't know how we justify this so long. I don't even know how we make this like part of our thing. Like we have to be the person who wears busyness like a badge of honor. And we're the one who says, no, I am strong because I do too much. And you're overworking, and it is sabotaging, or in other words, it is bottlenecking the workflow. You're not helping anybody if you are getting in the team's way. And because you've got this thing where you have to know everything and do everything and be everything, which really you're just trying to stay at the center of attention or the center of gravity, and that will sabotage more than you. It'll sabotage your health for sure, but it could also sabotage the trust of the team you're on. It could sabotage the mobility and the momentum of your organization. Man, sometimes we just get in our own way and we don't realize it. It's like that framework we looked at where you have to wake up because you're so used to it, you're so familiar, and familiarity will actually keep us in a repeat year cycle. And the last category, the last area that we want to assess, are we doomed to repeat 2021? You might be if there are chronic signs of apathy. Man, apathy. Apathy is, similar to burnout in this situation. This is where you just can't keep going. You start good. You start strong, but you just can't keep it up. Maybe you've been working really hard on your fitness and you give up. Maybe you were trying the budgeting thing and it's just too tedious. Or maybe you were open to other people's feedback, but it just started feeling like sunburn. Man, you're just extra touchy, and you're okay with cosmetic feedback, like some of the like surface level things, but now they've already talked about all of the obvious things that they can see. Now the feedback is aiming a little bit deeper, and it's going after, like attitudes, and it's going after values, and it's going after like part of your identity, and you're like, okay, I'm done with that. Okay, I did the feedback train. I'm jumping off at the next station. And it's not that we don't care. It's that we stop caring. It's like we did care and it got too painful. And I want to encourage you that you're not fragile. I know you're frustrated, but being frustrated is not the same as being fragile. And apathy will absolutely keep you in a repeat year cycle. Apathy will short circuit the habits and the actions that you need to reinforce in order to turn a repeat year into a new frontier. Apathy is personal. Apathy can be professional. Apathy can be relational. Apathy can be spiritual. So you gotta, like, I don't know, go go take the x-ray. Go evaluate. Man, am I letting apathy steal my joy, rob my progress, hijack my motivation? Is apathy keeping me in a previous year and or keeping you in a previous season of life where you stall out? Because past success will attack the work. You just think you don't have to put in the work again. You think, man, I've done this for decades. There's no way I have to keep going uphill. And it wasn't about a destination. It was always about going on the journey and keeping company with some amazing comrades and seeing how far the right values will take you. So these are the 4 things that I want you to assess today, like right now. And at the time of this recording, this is Future Friday. Future Friday is not where you just take a field trip to your fantasy land and you just kind of dream about how awesome everyone should think you are. But it's about understanding you've got a real future and you have to show up ready. And so how do you actually work through these 4 challenges, and how are you going to deal with not just the, these issues like they're kind of some disease or some sort of sickness, but I mean, this is the enemy here, right? These are enemies against your soul. These are enemies that will try to rob your peace, rob your joy, rob your focus, rob your work. And not just your, you say, well, you can take my work. I will go fishing today. You can take my projects. Take that meeting. I don't care. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about your life's work. So that's why I'm really appealing with you. Work through these 4 areas and don't waste time going in circles. I want to help you. I've created a flagship digital course. It's called Pioneer the Year. And it is built around my own leadership journey, the things that I have learned and earned over time, things that now I can share very clearly, very quickly with you. Literally in just 4 modules, you'll get a clear overview of the mindsets and the skill sets that you need to really deal with this challenge. How are you going to turn the repeat years into new frontiers? So you're not just coasting, you're actually climbing. You're not just surviving, but you're pioneering. You're taking on new ground in your life. You're having new experiences. You're making new accomplishments. You're taking your relationships to new levels. You're not settling where you are, but you have the interior self-leadership that's going to take you on a lifelong journey that's ultimately going to show up with a grateful legacy. So I want to explain how this course is going to guide you through this challenge. And there are 4 modules, and each of these modules personally deal with the 4 main challenges I mentioned. the clutter. How are you going to clear the way? How are you going to keep track of your life and of your future on multiple fronts at the same time? So you're not always feeling blindsided. You're not always feeling discouraged because things keep popping up and you're unprepared. It's going to deal with the indecision. Indecision happens on all levels, and we have to learn how to develop a proactive and preemptive approach. And really, this comes down to good planning. And having a good planning system will help you get going and keep going and moving the ideas into the identity category. It's not just a good idea, but now it is something I'm taking action on, and I know how to turn it into my identity. And then the third piece, sabotage. You're showing up, but you're just showing up unprepared. You're showing up foggy. You're showing up battle weary. You're showing up stretched so thin, and you're not even able to enjoy the moment because it feels like everything is just putting you in the trenches again and again. It's just like an ongoing battle that you can't even enjoy the fruit, and the hard-earned spoils of all of your habits and disciplines. And I really want to encourage you to be more present and to be more prepared. And so Module 3 is going to really help you sync up with a more future-focused approach and deal with the sabotage. And you can get out of your own way, and you can begin to see things working with you, working for you, whether that's systems, whether that's teams, whether that's stuff that you're putting into the calendar on purpose. All of those things are going to begin to work for you. So when you show up, man, you show up ready. You actually have a mountain of preparation that you're standing on instead of a mountain of procrastination that you're buried under. The next thing is the apathy. If you cannot deal with chronic apathy, then you're not going to stay the course. You're not going to be a marathon runner. And it's not just about how well you do at one pitch or one meeting or one party or one project. It's how are you going to stick with it for the long haul? And that's something that I think a lot of the kind of goal-setting things might be missing. And so this fourth module was really kind of the master key that unlocked the potential of not just having good ideas, making good goals, and working in a structured way, but actually piecing it all together and getting that relational empowerment piece in place so that way you can actually go further. So clear the way, get going, show up ready, and go further. These are going to be the 4 best practices for pioneering leaders who want to turn repeat years into new frontiers. Maybe you got some personal things on your radar, and you've been talking about it for a long time, or maybe you've been seeing some threats to your personal health or to your relationships or to just your opportunities, and you say, you know what, I need to actually face up to those things sooner than later. Maybe you're a team leader and you know that your team is going to thrive or nosedive based on your self-leadership culture. If you're operating on a self-leadership level, then your team is going to keep going up and to the right. But if your team is entitled and there's turf wars and people are, blaming and shaming each other and there's a lot of laziness, maybe you've got some lazy leadership kind of creeping up in your culture, it's not going to go good. And so instead of pulling everybody together and doing some sort of, team time and having this big meeting where you're like chewing people out, and that's not effective. You need to model a self-leadership movement, and so this will help you with that as well. This course is my flagship digital course. It's the best thinking on how do you actually pioneer the year, and it's going to help you. You can go to pioneertheyear.com and you can get that course there. There's also a lot of opportunities for coaching to go with it. So you're not just, you can go at your own pace, or you can implement some coaching sessions as well, which will just develop the tools with you in real time. And, I do want you to get involved at whatever level you can. In fact, that's one of the reasons why I do the live streaming thing. I love people showing up live and asking questions, working on their leadership in real time, whether that's the self-leadership or the team leadership or the the generational leadership. I really appreciate y'all being on this journey. I want to keep you company as you keep growing, keep going. And I want you to know you really don't have to be doomed to a repeat year cycle. You don't have to stay stuck. You don't have to wake up sometime later in your life and say, oh, dang it, I'm not married yet, or what, I'm in the same team role, or man, I had that idea and somebody else took it, or man, I'm so frustrated and I feel trapped and I can't get out of this situation. Man, that is the precursor for some really dark and discouraging times, and I don't want you to go through that. I know that you will go through difficulty, but you don't have to go through it with a fragile mindset. You can go with a pioneering approach that can actually navigate those challenges and then create a braver, brighter future. And I think we're going to need more leaders like that, not fewer, because with leaders like that, we're heading towards a better future together. Remember, you're going places, but you got to prepare to go there. I hope to see you again next Friday. I am so pumped because for the next few weeks, I have multiple coaching conversations stacked, ready to go. We're going to have some awesome, heartfelt conversations about leaders and the journey we're all on. Stay awesome and keep in touch sometime in the future.